Hi, students. This PowerPoint presentation will show you how to write a basic analysis. Before you read this entire presentation, this is what I want you to do. I want you right now to make sure you have a pen or pencil so that you can take notes. Make sure that you have read all of the information online about analytical writing. And it's okay if it takes you a few days to read this entire presentation, okay? Now, we're going to use The Story of an Hour by Kate Chopin as our practice text for this presentation, okay? So this is just going to be used as a point of reference for this presentation. What is the general definition of analysis? An analysis is definition of analysis is when you're looking at the text and you're showing how this small aspect of the text, it could be anything, how this small aspects of the text relates to the overall main idea of the text. So you're trying to show how this small thing relates to this bigger thing, which is the main idea. You are trying to find the figurative hidden meaning, okay? Not the literal dictionary meaning. So, for example, the color red is literally a color. That's a dictionary meaning. We don't care about that. However, red, the deeper meaning of red, it can have multiple meanings. Red could represent passion, it could represent love, but on the other hand, it could represent violence and war. Okay. So symbols, anything in a text can have double meanings, okay? Anything in a text can be analyzed. The main idea can be analyzed. The literary terms can be analyzed. Symbols, similes, metaphors, setting. Colors can be analyzed. Concepts, genders, sentences, even language, grammar, anything in the text can be analyzed. Remember, your analysis is based on your opinion. It's based on what you see in the text. Think about the concept of reader response, okay? You, the reader, bring your unique background, culture, and life experiences to the text. So it's what you see in the text. And since you guys are newbies, it's always easier to find symbols or to analyze symbols in literature because pretty much every piece of literature has a symbol. So a symbol is something, it can be an idea, it can be a number, a color. Again, it could be a myriad of anything that stands for something else. So, for example, a dove is literally a bird, okay, a white bird. But on a deeper level, doves are the color white, which usually stands for peace. And on the other hand, it can be a symbol of death because doves are featured at funerals and weddings, okay? Now, writers use symbols and other literary language to make their ideas more interesting and complex. So, if somebody came up to you and said, "You are as wise as an owl," okay, um, you have to figure out what is the symbol here. The symbol here would be an owl, right? Um, what does this above statement mean? It could mean that you are wise and smart. Why did the person say you were as wise as an owl as opposed to saying you are as wise as a mouse? Because an owl is known to be observant and quiet, and a mouse is known to carry disease. So, owls, let's break this down. An owl has huge eyes, right? So, wise people usually see everything, they're usually observant. Owls can rotate their necks 207 degrees. Wise people usually see everything, right? Owls are brown. And brown is a color represented with that represents humbleness. And wise people are usually humble. Okay, so let's look at this. Let's continue with symbols. Think about this song, America the Beautiful. And I want you to think about it. Think about this. Remember what a symbol is. Okay, let's go back. What is a symbol? It represents something, it stands for something more than itself. Okay. So This is what I want you to think about. And just say this is a practice, a thesis. Symbols in a song are used to represent America. That's my thesis. Symbols in the song are used to represent America. So, what is an analysis? You break something down. You're trying to show how this small piece of the text relates to the overall main idea. So, the small aspect of the text would be symbols, right? And we're trying to figure out how symbols are used to represent America. That's the main idea. Now, America is main idea. It's broad. You have to think about it like this. Um, what does America mean to you? Is it positive? Is it negative? Let's say it's positive. A lot of people say America represents freedom. So freedom can come in the in terms of wealth. It could be seen in terms of diversity, abundance. Okay. Next, identify once you figure out your thesis. Okay. Now you have to go and you have to look at the text and you have to figure out, okay, let me identify all of the symbols that represent America. And we've already said that America what represents freedom. So here are the lyrics. A beautiful for spacious skies. Here are the lyrics. And here are some symbols. A sky can be a symbol. A sky could represent something more than itself, right? It could represent freedom. The color amber could represent America, freedom, right? Because it's a color. It's usually a light yellow color, which could represent optimism. Grain could be a symbol for America and freedom. Okay. Why? Grain grow in bunches. Anything that grows in bunches, like grapes or watermelon seeds, or anything that is in multitudes, that always represents fertility. And then a mountain, purple mountain could be a symbol, right? A mountain could be represent success. So then you put it all together. Remember, we're trying to figure out how these symbols represent America, and we said that one aspect of America is freedom. So these are symbols of freedom, right? Which are symbols of America. Grains grow in bunches, which represents fertility. America is a very fertile country full of plenty. Amber is a light color, meaning optimism. People come to America for abundance, which is a result of fertility. Okay, so that's one way you can look at it. So, how do you go about analyzing literature so that you can write a really good analysis? The first thing you guys have to do is read. Seriously, literally, I cannot um emphasize this enough. That's why I'm doing all of these little squiggly things. Read, 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 and take notes. That's the first step. You cannot analyze a piece of literature if you don't read. You have to read it from beginning to end. Take notes as you read. Okay? Put a question mark about around anything that's confusing to you. Put a star by anything that is interesting to you. I always try to find the main idea of the text. Okay? What is the figurative meaning? And note, if you have an assigned thesis, make sure that you take notes as you read based on proving your thesis. So if you have an assigned thesis, which you guys do, as you're reading, just pay attention to what the thesis is asking you to do. Okay. That's very, very important. Um, when I say you have to take notes, this is what it looks like to take notes. I always take notes as you read. This student, notice how this student has broken everything down. All of these are notes as they were reading, as the person was reading, they were taking notes. I know this student wrote a really good essay because these are really good notes. Secondly, you guys are going to focus on your thesis. Again, if you have an assigned thesis, which you guys do, you have to figure out what is the thesis telling you to do. Remember, analysis is a breaking down of something. You're trying to show how this small piece of the text relates to the bigger main idea. Okay. So here in Kate Chopin's The Story of an Hour, this is our practice text. We're going to show how symbols, a small aspect of the text, are used to express Miss Ballard's new sense of freedom. And freedom is the overall main idea, okay, of the text that we're trying to prove. So if I were you, I would break it down like this in a little chart. I'm trying to figure out how symbols are used to represent freedom. And let's just like we said before, you have to figure out, okay, what is the main idea? Freedom, what is that? What does that mean? Is that positive or is it negative? Okay. What do you think? What does freedom mean to you? Let's just say it's positive. Okay. So basically what we must do, we have to go through the text and figure out all of the symbols that could represent freedom. Okay. So how do we do that? How do you prove your thesis? You have to find quotes. Okay. You have to find quotes. So when you find a quote, remember again, I have to keep saying this. We're finding quotes. Remember, we're trying to find symbols. So we're going to find quotes that have symbols in them that represent freedom. So that's what I'm looking for. All right. I'm looking for symbols that represent freedom. So we have to go through the text and we have to find as many symbols as we can that represents freedom. So here is a quote, and it says, "The top of trees that were all aquiver with the new spring of life." Um, where are my symbols here? That's what you have to figure out. And if you're not sure on what symbols are, again, look in your book in the back of your glossary. Of course, always look online and just type in what are symbols. Or you can use the dictionary literary symbols, and I'll show you that in a little while. So remember, symbols represent freedom. When I think of freedom, I think of trees, okay? Because trees are huge. They're tall, they hover above everything else. They're immovable, okay? And then I think of spring when I think of freedom because everything becomes alive with spring. People love spring because they just finished with winter and now it's spring and everything's alive. Okay. So these are two symbols that could represent freedom. Notice too how everything is in MLA style. Okay. Always format your paper and your quotes obviously in MLA style. Um, you guys are newbies, so you have to find a source that helps you interpret the symbols or the symbols in the quotes. Okay, you have to find a source that helps you interpret literature in general. This is very important. Okay, you need to find. I would use the dictionary of literary symbols. It's online through Galileo and probably on Google, I think too. But it's a dictionary of literary symbols, and it's very useful. It helps you guys break things down. So, for instance, one of our symbols was a tree, right? So, this is what the dictionary of literary symbols says. What does a tree, what is the analysis of a tree? It'll break it. This is just a little snippet. It'll break everything down for you. Okay. As you can see. Um, when you think about a tree could represent, it's very biblical. It could represent Christianity, life. Uh, trees have roots sometimes that represent family traditions, strength. Okay, trees are green. Can we have green leaves that represents um, life? Okay, so once you find your symbols, you're going to put them down. You want to put for each paper, you want to at least identify 5 or 6 symbols, and you want to use your analytical chart. And you want to start putting your symbols on an analytical chart so that you know, um, so that you can start breaking this down and start putting some analysis in your paper. This analytical chart is very important because it'll prompt you to put some analysis in your paper. Okay. If you use it, it will prompt you to do that. You have to just make sure you transfer whatever you put on your analytical chart, you have to transfer it to your paper. So like we said before, One symbol is a tree. It says, I think the quote says, many trees, right? Um, if the text doesn't give you a specific number, if it says there are many trees, and if it doesn't say there are four trees or one tree, then you can create your own number. Okay. So let's just say many could represent seven. And in this case, seven represents luck, abundance, all words associated with freedom. And what are the colors? Okay. So here it says how many numbers are associated because you can always analyze numbers, right? What about the colors associated with tree? Green, vitality, brown. Okay. Then you want to find a picture of your symbol because when you find a picture, it's going to help you expand your analysis. Sometimes if you find a visual representation, it will help you expand your analysis. Okay. And then once you put it all together, right? Same thing with spring. In this case, spring, it represents one season, one represents the best. Spring has many different colors, so you can go crazy there and just analyze as many colors as you want. And then just put it all together. Okay? Put it all together. And once you put it all together, it looks something like this. Here's my thesis again. Symbols are used to express Miss Mallard's new sense of freedom. That's my thesis. Remember, your thesis, pretend like this is your essay. Your thesis is going to be at the bottom of your introduction. Then you have your topic sentence. Okay. What is your topic sentence? It's just a repeat of your thesis to keep you on track with this particular paragraph. All right. Symbols are used to express Miss Mallard's sense of freedom. After that, I have my quote. It's very important you have your quote. Why? Because that's your evidence. That's your evidence. That's where you're going to pull your symbols from. Okay. The tops of trees were all a quiver. Okay. That's my quote. And I've already identified my symbols. Trees. And I think top can be a symbol too. Um, but here, trees can be a symbol. So, like we said before on our chart, a tree is a symbol. Here, when it says freedom is an act, notice here I'm giving a definition. It's okay if you want to give a definition to keep you on topic. A symbol is something that stands for something else. Freedom is the act of living or functioning without hindrances. Okay. A tree is a symbol because it has green leaves and the color green represents vitality. All words associated with freedom. Notice how we keep going back. We have to go back and we have to go and we have to connect our analysis to the main idea freedom. Miss Mallard sees many trees, which means abundant. Many means abundance. Another notion of freedom, abundance, freedom. When you're free, you have a lot. If there are seven trees, okay, that can represent good luck. Remember, it didn't tell us how many trees we made this number up, and that's okay. It represents good luck. The top of tree symbolizes freedom because it rises above everything else. And numerically, top, that's that word top can be associated with number one because when you're top, you're generally superior. You're high, you're above everybody else. You're the only one. Okay. Um, and then if we want to extend this paragraph, we can find another quote. Okay, a quote that has symbols in it that represent freedom. There were patches of blue sky through the clouds. Sky has no limits, which can also represent freedom, right? The sky, what color is it? Blue, which represents peace, and white clouds can represent peace and simplicity. Okay. Now, this is one way, one paragraph from your entire essay. Okay. This is one paragraph. And the rest of the paragraph is based on analysis proven, again, how symbols are used to represent narrative sense of freedom. So, this is one way you can write your analysis. And when you put it all together, remember the format goes, you have your thesis, then you have your topic sentences, and then your quotes, and then your analysis. Now, if you guys, just going back, just to highlight some things. Remember, you guys are newbies, so you have to have something. You have to have something to help you interpret this literature. If I were you, I would use the dictionary and literary symbols. Also, I would use any handouts online that helps you interpret literature. Okay. More practice. What is the meaning of this statement? Your love is like a red, red rose. If somebody came up to you and said, Your love is like a red, red rose, what do they mean? So the first thing I would do is identify again the symbols. Um, what is a symbol? It represents something more than itself. Color can be a symbol because it always represents something more than itself. Um, a rose can be red, could be a symbol, right? A rose could be a symbol because a rose represents something else other than itself. Okay. It could represent love. Roses, in terms of gender, could represent the female gender. Love is, even though it's literal, but if you associated the literal word love with a symbol like, love could be the color red, it could, which represent love. Um, you can kind of work with this, but the clear symbols definitely are red and rose. So you have to find a deeper meaning. Red could represent passion. But look at this. The writer says your love is like a red, red rose. He says red twice. So maybe that's more of a passionate, a deeper kind of love, red passion. Um, yeah, so it could represent that. What is a rose? It's a flower. Gender wise, it usually represents female. But a rose is a very different flower because it's considered the top of the flower pyramid. Okay, it's the top rose. It's not a rose is not just a regular flower. It's like the top is supreme. Um, so then you want to use your handouts online or the dictionary literary symbols to, again, further break it down. And on a template, always use a visual represent. Now remember, you're going to put all of this on your analytical template to help you break all of this down so you can transfer it to your paper. And always find a visual to extend your analysis. So if you look at this, you have all these little layers, all these petals. You have color green, okay? You can analyze the color green. What does that represent? The color green represents vitality, youth. But notice here, it has like these little thorns. Notice how roses have thorns? So if you prick it, if you pick it up, it could prick you. So what does that say about love? Love could be dangerous, it could hurt, okay? So that's how you want to break down uh, any text, okay? So, guys, that is the end of this short presentation. Remember, analysis, the only way you understand it is if you practice. You have to practice. So when you receive your essay assignment, start practicing right away. Start writing right away and practice, practice, practice. The more you practice, the better you will become, and your analytical writing skills will become much better and stronger, and you'll enjoy it. So that's it for the presentation. If you have questions, please contact me. Okay. Thank you so much.